I don't think I need to use the mic. There's not that many people in the room tonight, so
What do you say?
what do you keep doing this for?
Well, he can, he's
Oh.
on Zoom. He can hear you on Zoom.
Oh, I get it. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming tonight and welcome to the 2023 annual meeting for Bullseye Golf Club. And I was gonna, I mean, he's sitting next to me all the time and you'll hear a lot of things about JT tonight, but we do got to give him some props because he and Jamie decorated this place pretty nice for Christmas. I know they were in here one Sunday morning together, hanging the stuff in the bar, multiple trees, so you guys did a really nice job. I was here for the Wood Trust Christmas party and the Santa brunch, and everything has gone really well for the holiday season. And that's because JT and his team pull it all together and get it done. So thank you very much for that. We are going to do a New Year's Eve dinner again this year. Now that Santa brunch is done, we'll get some information out relating to the New Year's Eve dinner, but that will take place normally like it always does out here at Bullseye. And all the presentation tonight is going to get put onto the Bullseye website. There'll be audio and video. Mike's slides that you're going to see tonight, there is a lot more information in the appendices that is available to you. That's a complete recap of literally every number we have. And I do need to say thanks to Mike. When you see this presentation, he's a PowerPoint whiz and did a really nice job putting all this stuff together, making it look nice. So thank you very much for that. Up here on the front table, if you're interested, these are the financial statements for 2023 and 2022, the comparative statements that Bob Miller puts together. So there's a pile of them here on the table. Feel free to take them when you leave if you'd like to look through the actual numbers. This is actually my 5th time I stood up here at an annual meeting. And it is amazing to me how far, and when you see this presentation, how far we've come since that meeting in December 2019. I wouldn't call that one an annual meeting. I would call it a survival meeting at that time because all we were doing was signing papers for the member loan fund at that time. And as you'll see tonight, thankfully, all that's behind us. The progress that we made, we're going to focus on the business of Bullseye tonight. We'll give you a lot of information relating to the operation of the club this year. So thank you, Mike, for putting all that stuff together. So our agenda tonight, we're going to do it. Program will take about an hour. The first part is the election of officers and directors, which I will handle. I'm going to talk to you about some of the accomplishments that we've seen for the club over the last couple of years and some of the things that we're going to be finishing next year. And then we're going to talk about business focus. So as president of the board, my number one focus, and for most of you out there, is the repayment of the member loan fund. Everything you see tonight, all the numbers that Mike has put together, has a complete repayment of the member loan fund in 2026. And I'm sure a lot of you, when you got into the member loan fund, were thinking, I'm never going to get this money back. But everything you see will include that. Without the member loan fund, we would have never made it. There's just no question about it. And when you hear about the capital expenditures that need to be made over the next year or so, you'll know we need those funds through 2026. So, but without all of you putting money in that loan fund, we would never be where we are today. So thank you very much. And I think you'll all probably agree, saving Bullseye was the easy part. I mean, we're all had one goal, that was saving this place. We're all pulling in the same direction. Running Bullseye is a little bit different because, like all of us as business people or our own homes, everybody looks at things a little different way. They decorate their houses different or spend their money differently. So I want you guys to know that as we go through all these things tonight, this has been a collaborative effort by all the members on the board. We take things, we talk about them, we debate them, and then we put them in place. So I would ask all of you, as we talk about spending money, to look at this thing at the big picture, where we've come from and where we're going over the next couple of years. So it is, it's an interesting dynamic as we move through this, especially the bar renovation, which you're going to hear about tonight. But then Mike's going to come up and talk a little bit about the financial and capital plan. These numbers have been updated recently. So every couple of years, we go through and update the cost of equipment and things like that that need to be budgeted for, but Mike will present that information. And then we're going to do a presentation on tag marshal and the bar renovation. That JT is going to come up, talk about tag marshal, why it's a benefit to this club and why we want it for the experience of golfing at Bullseye. And then he's going to give you his perspective as GM as to why the bar needs to be renovated. And then Mark is going to come up and talk to you about from the board's perspective, the economics of a new bar. And we're going to show you the first pictures of the renderings of what the bar could look like. And I want to be very specific about this. These are drawings of the bar, what the bar could look like. There have been the actual architectural plans for the bar have been approved by the board, but the design and the look has not been yet. So what we're going to see, and Mark will tell you all this stuff, is very preliminary as far as the look is concerned. And then we'll do some questions and answers and answer any questions you have. So I would say to you, please hold the questions till we get to the end, and then we'll answer whatever we need to. And for those of you that are on Zoom, there is a chat button on the lower part of the screen. You can type in a question, JT will see it, and then we'll be happy to answer those questions also. So let's get started with the first item on the agenda. It's the election of the board of directors and officers. And one of my priorities as president of the board is to keep this team together. This board has worked real well. I've talked to Mike and Keith and Jack about remaining in those positions until we get the member loan fund. I've talked to the other board members about being part of the team until we get this thing finished. And that's the goal for me, is to keep this group of people together that works well together, that debates things. And that's the officers and directors we'd like to present tonight for approval by the club. So I need a motion from the floor. I'm happy to take any other people that would like to be on the board, any alternate slates, anything like that. But if not, I need a motion to approve this group of people. And Jerry, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. Committees for 2023. I should say 2024 because we're in that fiscal year. I put 2023 up there, but the Finance Committee, the Greens Committee, and the House Committee. And I do need to make special note for Mark Keener, Kurt Hoppy, Karen Scarsa, our non-board members that agreed to act on the Greens Committee. So thank you. I know Mark's here. Thank you very much for doing that. A good group of people. If there's anybody that wants to be on a committee, we're happy to entertain some additional membership. That exchange of ideas, we end up in a better place when we talk through some of the things that are going on. But that's the committee assignments for next year. Thank you to all of them. So accomplishments. Without question, the number one goal we had for 2023 was turning a profit. Everything you are about to see tonight is predicated on 2023 being a base year. If we couldn't get the profitability in our first full year since COVID, then none of this stuff that you're seeing tonight would have happened. But we did make a profit, and we can, there's some, before depreciation, after depreciation. That's why it says positive cash flow. But as you will see, our profit was about $133,000 this year from cash flow from operations. So for us, that's a big deal. And thank you to all the members of the Finance Committee that helped us get to where we are today. Upgrading our irrigation infrastructure. By far, this is the largest dollar project we are going to be dealing with over the next couple of years. So our first step, it's a multiple step process, but in fall of 2022, we upgraded all the controllers on the course, that upgraded all the technology that allows Ryan to know which sprinkler heads aren't working. I'm sure all of you know that in the past, they wouldn't know a sprinkler head wasn't working until there's brown grass. Now, all of that technology has been upgraded. And in 2024, we are going to upgrade our main pump house down by the river. It's in bad need of upgrade right now. Those projects are necessary, but they're not cheap. To put the on-course technology in was about $115,000. To repair the pump house, $300,000 is what it's going to cost us for the pumps, motors, control panels. We have to be able to get a crane down that road that goes down there. There's a lot of moving parts. But I do have to point out, and I want to thank Doug and to agree, all the people that you work with, Stephen and Jim Neitzel, and Doug has done a lot of work in the design and the implementation of this project, along with Brian Jensen and JT and Ryan. It's been a long process, but one that we've come and made some decisions about the design of what the pump house is going to look like. The goal is, and Doug, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the goal is to probably implement that this spring, April, May of this year. All that new equipment will go into the pump house, and then we will have completely renovated the irrigation system. People have asked us, well, what about the pipes in the ground? Those are minor problems. I mean, if you had to replace all the pipes, it'd be massive amount of money, but the way that things happen, Ryan, if there's a pipe that breaks, Ryan goes in and fixes it. So it's not anything that we need to be concerned with now, but that infrastructure for the irrigation system is really important going forward. So that's going to be upgraded here this spring. Upgrading our cart fleet with Tag Marshal. This fall, we got 8 additional new carts came in based on JT's work on how many carts are being used on the weekend, so we don't run out of carts. Obviously, carts pay for themselves because people are using them as they go along. So we've upgraded our fleet. It's 100% within the last couple of years. And Tag Marshal, we believe, will increase the golf experience at Bullseye Golf Club. In addition to being a GPS system and a geofencing system, it will also allow the pro shop to monitor everything that's going on in the course, where the carts are, who's slow, rather than having a marshal out there running around. So JT will fill you in on all of the benefits of Tag Marshal going forward. We renovated tee boxes on holes 4, 9, and 15. So thanks to Pat Smolarek and people on the Greens Committee for helping work through that process. But we needed to improve those tee boxes. And we're going to continue the process of fixing tee boxes as we move along here. One of the things that's happened relating to this is Pat was very outspoken about the need to include money every year in our budget relating to improving the golf course. And you'll see that in Mike's numbers, but that's a project. I don't know, sure everyone's seen it, but 15 and 4 look really good, and 9 looks nice, the gold tee box. On 9, we have a number of other tee boxes that really need renovation going forward. So that'll be part of what we're doing. We expanded the practice facility. Quite honestly, the practice facility was way above expectations. We figured it would be pay for itself in 4 years. It's less than that, but now we had to expand it because the use was so good. We had to adjust our thinking as far as how we maintain it. So we went through and changed a lot of the maintenance processes because of the use. We expanded it this fall. So it should be one of the nicest facilities in central Wisconsin. We put music down there. There'll be a TV down there when there's things going on that warrant it. But it'll be a really nice facility, and that's finished, and we can move on. And then we are in the process of completing the Centennial and Golfers Gardens on Hole 8. That project, for the most part, was paid for by donations. We did run into some cost overruns as far as the electricity. But I do say, and Doug, if you see Jim, would you tell him, please, thank you for all the help he gave me, understanding, because the electricity is over on 2, it has to get over to 8, and then it's going to the bathrooms too, that are behind 4. So Jim was very helpful. So there are some cost overruns there, but basically the vast majority of that project got paid for by donations. And back behind Brian is 3 of the 4 signs that will go in the Golfers Garden. The only sign that isn't here is the donor sign. That was the last sign that had been completed. So it's not here yet, but the donor sign will be a large sign, just like the 2 on the right. And they'll all get put in the spring. The new fountain will go in the spring. But I do need to, I think, respond to something Mike told me one day. We work with Shallow's Nursery out of Marshfield, and Gordy Shallow told me, because I was talking to Mike one day, and he said, oh, those gardens, they're pretty sparse. This was fall, and they had just been planted. Remember that conversation? Well, we've got about $4,000 of perennials that are going in the gardens this spring. And what Gordy Shallow said is 2024, the summer, is when the plants will start to grow, and the garden will look dramatically different in 2025. But everything that is being put in the garden is maintenance friendly. They can go in, cut things down. Bushes don't need a lot of trimming. So all of that we did with the understanding that things needed to be deer resistant and maintenance friendly. So all those things got accomplished. I need to take just a minute and talk about these things as it relates to our relationship with Oliphant Golf Management. Because I don't think people fully understand the relationship that we have. You're going to see it's our largest expense, but without their expertise, we wouldn't have been able to finish these projects. The irrigation infrastructure, the renovations of the tee boxes, the practice facilities, the Centennial Gardens, they were involved in all of those. What they bring to the table for us as a board and for this club is expertise. So, for example, you're going to hear tonight about the renovation of the bar. Oliphant has a food and beverage manager, Chris Wakowiak, that came in, has been working with Mark and JT, helped understand the layout of the new bar, all of that kind of stuff. Theron Steidel, their project manager, they came in, they did the tee boxes in the practice range. The interesting thing about our relationship with Oliphant is they did that work at cost for us. We rent equipment, we have some of those costs, but basically the arrangement we worked out, they bring their team in, we pay for their time. So it's basically being done at cost. And as you can see, they've done some really good work on the tee boxes and stuff. Tom Stem is a regional agronomy manager that when we have a problem, when Ryan needs some help, Tom came in a couple times when we were dealing with stuff. And the easiest thing to explain was the putting area at the practice facility. That grass wasn't growing in specific areas, didn't look right. Tom came in, they changed some maintenance things up, they did some different things, and by the end of the year, that putting green in the practice range was looking pretty good. So all of those things, and then they provide us marketing support. So all the emails you get, the website, all comes from Oliphant. Admin support they provide. And Brian Jensen was very helpful for Mike, because Mike is a data hound, quite honestly, and he wants data. We were able to work with Brian and the Oliphant team to give him access. I'll call it their server, for lack of a just easy explanation. But Mike can go in, adjust reports, look at data. It helps us be better managers and understand how our business is working. So I need to thank Brian Jensen for all his support. the whole pump house project that is going on. I know Doug, you've worked with those guys. Ryan, great young golf superintendent, and then there's Mr. Thompson, who I always talk about what a good relationship we have, a great working relationship. I don't think you guys fully understand the job that this man does, from crawling around in the ceilings when we have water leaks to cleaning up bathrooms on the course when there's accidents out there, to getting called in when there's grease trap problems. He's here all the time, and we greatly appreciate everything you do here. I don't know what I'd do without JT, but he's been a real asset to this club. So thank you very much for that. Business focus, four quick slides. I just want to cover what's important to us as a board. And the first being balancing outside play and founding member satisfaction. We understand this is a transition. We understand that we have to try and balance all this stuff, because you're going to hear from Mike. There's no question that outside play has saved this facility also. But the tag marshal is one of the things we can do to respond to founding members. Pace of play is an important concept to people. The tag marshal system will help with pace of play. So that's important to us. Building and retaining a quality team. We had all kinds of problems in the kitchen and the restaurant this year with staffing. We know it, we understand it. We started with the rebuilding in the kitchen. Corey Reef-Schneider, the new chef, has changed the attitude 100% back there. We are working at expanding our front of building team. That's in process. There'll be some announcements later on, not tonight, but as we work through there. But the board understands that we have a service problem that we're going to work on. And I know JT and I have talked a lot about that stuff, but we want to build a quality team, and it revolves around the Danielles and the Courtneys of the world and people that have been here for a while, but we need that other staff also to make this place work well. Our facility is 40 years old, and it needs an update. That's going to be one of our focuses. We're going to start in the bar area, and then we've got to take it to the rest of the facility, because there's just a lot of issues going on with this facility. And lastly, investing in our golf course. As I indicated, Pat was very adamant about making sure we had the money in the budget for improving tee boxes or dealing with green problems, or if we need to take down trees for better sunshine, whatever it is, as Michael showed you, there's an allocation of capital every year to reinvest in our golf course, which is our most important asset. So with that as background, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he's going to talk about our capital plan for the next few years.
All right, well, I'm going to try to not have complex financial statements and just show you in pictures, because that tends to make it easier to understand. First thing to talk about is number of memberships that we have. And this is something that we worked real hard on, and we changed it. We went from, I think it was 67 to 103 members over the last 2 years. That's a 53% increase. And we did that through, you'll see coming next, the change in the offering that we did for much lower membership rates and trying to attract younger folks and that sort of stuff. But this tells me that worked. We don't expect that to keep going up like that. We expect it to, and we're trying to be conservative. So we're planning over the next few years, kind of holding it steady. As we tend to, we have turnover, but the expectation is it'll be replaced with new members and kind of just keep it at the same number. So we're trying not to get too crazy here and say, hey, we're going to make all this pile of money because we're going to keep bringing in new members. I don't know that that's going to happen, but keeping it flat, I think that's a good goal. Membership rates, well, we just kind of gave you the heads up on this. You do know that we've been bringing the rates down, and this is showing for individuals. Oh, and I should have said orientation. Wherever you see a solid line, that's historical. Where you see dashed lines, that's projected for the future. So ramping from 2019 through 2022, or actually this one started in 2020. You can see we went from 39.10 as the rate for an individual down to 27.70. That's a 30% decrease in our rates. That's trying to work at how do we increase value for our members. So your rates went down a lot. Simultaneously, we put in those two new rates that we talked about for over 35 and under 35. Started at 1,700 and 1,000. They're going to continue to go up with inflation, 5% a year, something like that. And we're going to then continue to bring down our founding member rates until in 2026, 27. Here, take that. Till 2027 when we meet up, and then we'll keep them in lockstep. And the founders will still have all the benefits that you have as a founder, but pay the same rate as someone walking in off the street. So I think that's gone really well. The net impact of that, however, is income went down. So membership income was 366,000 back in 19. It dropped down to 308 this year because of the combination of we're bringing in new members at a much lower rate. So we brought in a lot more of them, but we're also lowering the rates for the existing members. And that impact, frankly, has been more of a drop, pull down on total income than the new members. But now we should start to see it to swing because they're coming closer together and going to start going up together. So we think it's going to start rebounding now. That's not going to be our number one income stream, but it should come back to about 350,000 a year, somewhere in there. So we think that's going to continue to come back in that direction. Outside rounds. This has been where the change has happened. We have tripled our outside rounds since 2019. We were at 3,300. Now we're at 12,600. This is the financial lifeblood of what made us make money this year versus the losses we've had in the past. And you'll see that coming up. Again, we're not going to be too aggressive on this one. We think it can continue to grow. In fact, I'd be surprised if this doesn't come in higher next year than we're projecting, but we don't want to get too crazy with our expectations. But we had 21,000 rounds this year. That's the highest we've seen here that I think ever. But a busy course, we know, I think both the courses down at Arrowhead run about 30,000 a year. So we're still nowhere near how busy a busy course is. So we think we can handle it without looking terribly busy, because I know we all like our private bullseye that we've had. But we can handle a lot. We can handle more rounds without feeling too crowded. Outside play. So the outside play, carts, and range income, when you add them all together. Now we look at the income impact of all that. It'll do what you would have expected to do. That tripled as well. Went from a couple 100,000 to about 600,000. So this is the dollar side of the round impact. We think it's going to continue. And just for perspective, what we're going to do there, golf rates, so the rack rate that people pay when they come in, every other year or so, we're going to raise it $3 to $5. We think we're going to keep cranking that up to where however it can, what we can take, what the market will bear. Cart rates, we're going to take up a little bit every year. We're pretty competitive there. And we're going to raise the range rates $1 a bucket every other year. That's kind of thing you kind of got to do it in dollar increments because you don't want to have a bucket cost $6.49. It's $1 at a time. So the net impact, though, you see is continued increase in the revenue stream there for that. And then there's the bar, restaurant, and pro shop. That's doubled over the last couple of years. You can see in 2020 that went down. That's COVID hitting. And then we kind of came back with a rebound there. This we think could have been a lot higher had we had our restaurant stable, the cook situation, the kitchen situation that John referred to. We think we're going to start to see the bump there. And with the renovations that we're going to do in the bar, we think that's going to increase revenue. We think it's going to increase revenue on the restaurant side as well. And having a stable bar or a stable chef and cook group, that should increase our revenue stream there as well. So we are banking on a little bit of a bump next year and then continued growth 2% thereafter that. This is where it gets interesting, and it's kind of starts to paint the picture for when you transition from a private club to a public club. The red line is our membership income. We talked how that dip down is coming back a little bit. The yellow line is the bar, restaurant, and pro shop, and the green is the outside play with the carts and the range. You can see back in 2019, the bar was by far our number one, or I should say the membership was by far our number one revenue stream. Now it's not even close. In fact, when you look at the payer mix, You can see the one on the left is 2019, the pie over there, and the one on the right is 2023. Membership used to be 40% of our revenue, now it's 20%. And the opposite happened with outside play, went from 23% to 41%. So our business model kind of flipped. So these things affect decisions you make on the course. Another thing to say is not only did they change their mix, but the scale changed. We were at 1.1 million in gross revenue in 2019, 1.9 million in 2023. So getting close to doubling total income for the course. And we think that's going to ramp up all the way up to 2.5 million going forward. All good news, just interesting, and it changes the dynamic of how you run an organization. The expenses, John touched on it a little bit. Our number one expense is Oliphant, and it's all the things that John talked about, as well as all the maintenance on the course. The salaries are a second highest, and all other, I just didn't want to have too busy graph. All other, which is your utilities, insurance, everything else you can think of, is third highest. Oliphant contract is in place through 2027, so we feel pretty secure in forecasting what those are going to look like. The salaries we have going up 3% a year for annual raises, and then increasing where we think we have staffing needs as we're growing. You saw how much we're growing. You can't do that without supporting that with staff as you go. And all other, we just have going up 3% a year, plus the cost of tag marshal. Tag marshal is going to cost us $20,000 a year, which I think is going to be well worth it. And it's kind of baked in here to the results. So John touched on this earlier. He said profit. I'm talking about cash flow from operations, so it doesn't include depreciation. But you can see historically, this black line is 0. We were in the red for the last 3-4 years. And now this year, it's in the black. It's positive, 133,000. That's a very important number. And with all the things we just talked about, the net result is it continues to grow. So we went up about 300,000 in the last 3 years, from 2020 to 2023. And we expect to go up another 200,000 over the next 5 years. So it doesn't feel terribly aggressive. It feels like manageable growth. So where are you going to spend the money? And anybody that's ever built an organization, growth consumes cash. And frankly, we had some delayed spending. We were not investing in the course because we didn't have the money to do it. So we're doing a little bit of catch up now, now that we have some funds. And this is kind of a little roller coaster ride, but you can see next year, 2024, is going to be a big year with about $500,000 of spending. And I'll show you that in a second. But going forward, I think it's good to run this course and continually replace your maintenance equipment. 150 to 200,000 a year is going to be normal. That's just replacing the stuff you got. So just setting that expectation for you. So let's talk about what those numbers, where they come from. Well, in the gray area on the left there, you can see 2023, we had $331,000 of capital spent. Almost 200 of that was for the new carts. Now we do that with a capital lease, but that's the cost of the capital that we brought in. We had some maintenance equipment that we replaced, the greens roller, and then the course improvement that John talked about was about 69,000, and then the all other category. Going forward, 2 big things you can see in 2024. The bar renovation, we currently have in there at 175,000. Again, we don't have hard numbers yet, but we think that that's a manageable number, and we're going to work hard to manage to that number. The pump house, John rounded it to 300. I got it in here as $280,000, which it doesn't show up anywhere, but it's something you need to do. It's infrastructure you got to do. And then you can see we do have a separate line item here, course improvement. And that's something that Pat was fighting strongly for, saying, hey, we need to keep investing in the course. So you can see the big number for 2024 of 500,000, a little bit of a respite next year. This is a placeholder to say, do we need to keep the 180,000? Do we need to keep the 2021 carts that we had? Will they be outdated in 2026, 5 years? Maybe not, but we have a placeholder here to be conservative. I'm hoping we can push that number out to just off the chart here to kind of keep cash flows a little better, but we're allowing for it in case we need to. So this is kind of where it all comes together, because anyone knows that growth consumes cash and you can grow yourself out of business. So I'll orient you to this. This black line is the center. This is 0. Everything above that line is income, sources of income coming in. Everything below is uses. And the bigger the bar, the more it is. So for example, the maroon line, and the labels are over here. When we sold the property, that brought in a pile of cash, that big maroon bar. And we borrowed money from the member loan fund, and that brought in a bunch more. So that brought in, we had $1.7 million of cash coming in 2020. But we spent some. We had a pile of debt sitting out there. So the green is paying off debt, the green below the line. Green above the line is getting new debt. So it's cash in, cash out, depending on if you're getting it or paying it off. So, and then the difference, so I'll try to orient you here. The difference in size between the sources and the uses is the green dot. So, sorry, in 2020, we had $1.7 million of cash coming in and 800,000 of cash going out. So you see the green dots at 900,000. That's the net additional cash we brought in. The green line is, if you add it to the previous year, what's your total cash balance doing? There's some big takeaways here. There's a lot of capital expenditures that we just talked about. There's a lot of orange in here. So that's sucking a lot of cash. But for the first time, operating income is becoming a real thing. See, back at the beginning, they were below the line. We were losing cash. Now those numbers are above the line. So we're making cash. It's a lot of stuff going on. The main point is that your cash can't go below zero, or you're done working, you're done operating. So you can see our cash stays above, not a lot above, but it stays above. And that's with us paying back the members here in 2026. So it's all, remember the Ragu commercials? It's in there. It's all in there. Okay. So to summarize, membership is up 53%. Membership rates are down 30%. Outside play up 300%. Bar and restaurant up 200%. Capital investment spent 900,000 in the last 4 years, spending another $1.2 million over the next 5. Operating positive cash flow. We're on track to pay back the member loan fund. And we're working hard to keep balancing that liquidity with growth. To me, all this stuff says you have a healthy financial organization. And with that, I'll tag team JT.
All right, so thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Thanks for the kind words from John. Talk just a little bit quickly about Tag Marshal and some information on the bar. So Tag Marshal, some of you may be familiar with it, might be a new concept to a few people. We will have tablets that'll be mounted in the cart. So if you look at the carts right now, the placard that's up where we normally have information posted, that area will be replaced by approximately an 8-inch tablet. So that'll provide information on the hole, provide information on carts. If you look at the left side of this picture, that's kind of the internal backside we'll look at in the golf shop. We'll see where the different carts are. It'll prompt us if carts are playing slow, that kind of stuff. So some really good information, a couple key aspects in the Tag Marshal operation here. For us, it's pace of play. So we've grown, as you've seen, our rounds are up. So we were getting to the point of, employing caddies. Well, we know staff, or not caddies, I'm sorry, rangers. So we know that staffing has been tricky. So hopefully we're eliminating that. If we continue to grow, we might have to have a mix of both. But we're able to push that off with Tag Marshal. Enhance the player experience. Just people that come out, obviously you guys are here every day, the golf course. A lot of our play, as we're seeing, is outside play. They're seeing the golf course for the very first time. So it's giving them an experience of what to look for. And then the hope is some great additional revenue. So within this, we'll be able to do some promotional stuff with encouraging people to come into the bar after their round as they're finishing up on 18. Maybe golf shop sales, getting messages out to the golfers. So if anybody here has played Wild Rock in the last, I think 3 or 4 years, they use Tag Marshal on their cart. So that would be what you're looking at. Partner courses, pretty familiar, pretty exclusive list there. Sand Valley uses it. Obviously, they don't have carts. They use just a little button that the caddies take that helps them monitor play and traffic and where everybody's going. But Wild Rock would be our closest facility that's using it on their golf carts. So we get into the bar. Why do we need to remodel the bar? Well, if we just look at it, we know it's pretty inefficient. It's got 7 bar stools. At any given time, one of those bar stools could be broken and fixed on a daily. But so right now, $15,000 to $20,000 in repairs. All the wood behind the bars rotted out. You know, ultimately everything that you don't see besides the coolers, desperate need of repair. Plumbing in there's getting old, continued backups, different things like that. Large events that we have, not fully functional for bartenders to work back there and service those people. Lack of seating, as we've discussed. Additional point of sale terminal, so we're a little cramped in there in the workspace. So we want to basically make sure the bartenders are more efficient, not tripping over on top of each other. And inefficient for volume of drinks sold. So I ran a couple just quick numbers here. In 2022, we served about 82,000 transactions. So that would have been registered transactions, drinks that went through there. So shouldn't say registered transactions, but drinks that were sold. Last year, as we saw an increase of business in golfers, 93,000. So another busy year and an uptick. It wouldn't be uncommon to see 100,000 drinks, bottles of beer go through the bar. So the cooler space isn't able to service the golfers. As we've seen an uptick with that, 6-packs going out the door, that kind of stuff. So we've just outgrown that space, and visually in creating a wanna hang type place is just not in the element of what that bar space was originally used for. So create a welcoming space. So as we renovate that, we think that's going to bring business over to the restaurant, vice versa. Make it a nice place to hang out, not overcrowded, those kinds of things. So those are our hopes with the remodel, with the bar, and what that's going to create. Staff retention, shiny new place, better working conditions, those kind of things are important in that aspect. So turn it over to Mark here.
So one of the things that I feel lucky to be able to do is to see how this board of directors does things. When an idea like this gets presented to them, the amount of vetting that a subject like this goes through is pretty thorough. They are very thorough. So whenever members make suggestions, whenever somebody on the board of directors makes suggestions, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So when the concept of renovating our bar came up, of course, the question was, well, is this going to be a good investment? What type of investment is this? And as John had mentioned, Oliphant allowed us to use Chris, their consultant. And one of the first questions I had for him is, how do we quantify this? You know, how do we run the numbers on this? Because, you know, it's a forecast, right? I mean, I wish we had a crystal ball to know how many more drinks we're going to be able to serve in the next 5 years if we renovate our bar. But if I were looking into that crystal ball, I would also want to know how many drinks we didn't sell over the last 2 or 3 years, because we've all experienced it. When you walk in from what we call the golfer's patio entrance, and there's maybe 8 people there, but it looks like 80 from that perspective. And you've all had it when you've come down this way too, where, you know, there's maybe 9 people standing at the bar. And even though you're a member here, you're like, geez, am I interrupting? How can I get a drink here? So imagine the amount of revenue that we didn't realize because of that. So when we started having this conversation, JT was a part of this, Brian was a part of this. We started to break it down by, if we are just able to capture 8 more golfers per day, what would that mean in revenue? Okay, and you have to know that this assumes that each golfer would be responsible for $15 in sales. That number sounded reasonable to me when I did the math on what a round of drinks costs, right? I mean, Nobody has just one, right? They usually have two. And then it turns into more. And so if we get 8 golfers a day, and 2 non-golfers a day, which I think is extremely conservative, because if we build a place that people want to hang and people want to come, that's going to be a really low number. Let's say we do 100 more sales at events. The annual impact that that's going to have on us is $34,000. And this is a medium projection, and we'll pay for it in 5 years. You've probably all been here on when we've had travel groups and there's 16 carts sitting on 18 and you know, seemingly 30 guys waiting for the groups to finish. If you imagine those people coming in, the fact that we're able to have a space that they're going to be able to hang and have a couple of beers and do their stuff is going to be, I think is really going to be beneficial to us. So this slide here is, now again, I need to go back to what John said to begin with, okay? This is what you're going to see from this point forward is a concept. Now this layout has been pretty vetted, okay? We've had an architecture work on this. We've actually had a designer, and you're going to see what they are recommending that we're doing. But so for some perspective, this is kind of backwards of where we are positioned right now. But this is the golf patio entrance over here. This is the dining room. So this would be sitting like this. So the back of the bar would face the kitchen. Okay. And we have, as JT mentioned before, 7 spaces at the bar now, maybe 9 if everybody's standing. Okay. As you can see, this increases the number of positions that we'll be able to have at the bar, depending on the sizes of the stools that we choose, but to about 18. And actually, you see 4 tops here and 2 tops here. There's going to be an opportunity for us to actually have 4 tops along the wall there. So that is a much more efficient use of the space that we have in there than what we do now. And now I need to reiterate, what you're going to see next is just a concept, okay? You're going to see fixtures and furniture, and none of that stuff has been even thought about at this point yet. But we're working with a designer that's, you know, making a recommendation. And this was the first concept that they gave us here. So what you're looking at is down the hallway here. And then, you know, out those windows, and that would be the golfer patio entrance right there. You know, what we're looking for is a space where when somebody comes in off of the golf course, they'll have an opportunity to go to the bar. If somebody comes in to our building, and because we have so many new people, they don't know where they're going to be able to see that we have a bar down the end of this hallway. Okay, unless it's you know, the useless group has played and it's pretty loud in there, you don't have any idea where the bar is when you walk in here. Right? So we're going to have visual that will draw people to the bar. Okay. And this is just another view from it. This would be entering from the golf patio entrance, and then that's what the bar looks like from there. Yeah. So it's such a much more efficient use of the space. And, you know, I you know, have related a couple of stories, but you think about the times when, you know, I've come off of the golf course and then we've had an event going on here, and me and my group left here because of how filled that space was. You know, we're not only losing outside revenue, we're losing membership revenue too. So, yeah, we think this dramatically increases that opportunity. All right, that's a lot of information that you've been given. Does somebody have questions in the
Can
chat.
I
Hey,
add a
here,
couple
anybody here?
things, Mark?
Yeah. please.
One thing that is important to understand, that new bar would have 8 taps. That's one thing. Those lights that Mark showed you. What the designer was trying to do is replicate the old lanterns that Bullseye had. Now, whether it does that or not, but that was the concept that was presented to us, is that was the old lanterns. We are gonna have out in the bar area, when this is finished, 4 or 5 of these pictures showing various views. And also that setup of the bar that has been vetted and approved by the board. None of this has. Jerry?
Question. Will there be areas where if you're having a wedding or having extra people, are they gonna be able to walk up to the bar and have their designated areas to be able to go up and order drinks from the bartender, or are they gonna have to step between the stools to be able to do that?
So you're saying that, like, is a wedding gonna,
Go back.
yes, there would be like the hallway side, more than likely, that's our initial plan. Those stools would be pulled out, so there's stools are gone from that area. Yeah.
Order from.
Think of that side as a service bar
Right.
for that event.
We have a very good bar down in Florida that they have one on each end of the bar, and it's busy all the time, and the whole center is filled with people, but the people that can't sit at the bar now can go to the other areas to order a drink or to
Right.
do something
Yeah,
like that.
and then,
What you're not seeing on here is over this, right to the right of this,
Go back. to the plan.
there will be
Go back to the floor plan. Go back.
all right, so right here will be an area that would be, you could walk down there.
That's what-
There's no chairs there. It's actually for a handicapped wheelchair, but we don't get that many wheelchairs, so that is a spot over there that would be available. Also, the bump outs possibly would be available for that. So that's a little bit about the bar. Obviously, we have told, and Mark, you correct me if I'm wrong, we've told the architect and the designer that we wanted to stay within $150,000 budget, but we know it's gonna be more than that. So the issue is we're working hard to make sure that we can bring this in at the budgeted amount that you're seeing on that stuff that Mike presented. Timing. So what we have right now is we have architectural drawings. We have a designer, Morgan Altman. We have Altman Construction scheduled for February. And it was 4 to 6 weeks to do all this. I have to tell you, this project got started in the springtime. We thought we were gonna be able to have a member meeting in October, that we'd be far enough along that we could do that before people left for Arizona and Florida. Didn't make it. So right now, all we can tell you is we have Altman Construction scheduled for February. Whether or not we can get it all done is, and another question. While the construction is going on, we would open up that bar down there. Obviously, no tap beer, none of that kind of stuff, but we'd have access to a bar. The plan is to not have lunch service when they're busting things up. We have groups, we have Rotary that comes in, we've got Christian Women's, we've got BNI. We've got
Rabbits
numerous
Connection.
things going on, but JT feels we can manage through all those while they do the construction. All this would be walled off all the way back there. And any activity would be out here. But when you look at this, they'd be able to enter from the kitchen right into the bar. And all the servers would come out of the kitchen, at these doors over here.
Is the bar still gonna be closed during, weddings?
It depends on the wedding. Obviously, we have had a lot of discussions about weddings and members and utilization of the bar. the reality of that was we had 9 Saturdays this year where people couldn't get into the bar. The average revenue or net profit from a wedding is probably $4,000 to $6,000 compared to, I'm just gonna use the useless group as an example. They come in and afterwards, and it might be $300 in profit from the drinks. Is that about right? That, and once again, we have to try and balance all this. And we're going to work at how we can take care of our members. As you remember, that's one of our business focuses, but we're gonna try and figure out a way to handle all that stuff, balance the needs of our members. But there's no easy answers to that question, depending on the size of the wedding or the event that is going on, will determine whether you get into the bar. Bill?
I got a question on, pump house. Pump house expense, Tri-City still pumps out of that same area, same well, so to speak. And are they providing any contribution towards this?
Yep. So the question for those people online is, what is our relationship with Tri-City relating to this? And I can tell you that I've met with Todd Duhlman a number of times relating to this. As of this morning, about 7 o'clock, Todd is not going to participate. He got approval from the Grand Rapids Zoning Commission last night to put a pond on Tri-City. So his plan is, the wells he's gonna put isn't gonna, there's not enough pressure there to water his golf course. So he's gonna put the pond in, pump it into there, and then pump it out to the golf course. But that's the decision that he made. We met with him 2 weeks ago. And the plan is, if there's ever an emergency need for water, that we'd be able to put a meter on there and leave the pipes in place. And Doug, we haven't even talked about this yet, but because it all happened this morning. But as of now, Tri-City will not be on our water system. Previously, Todd has been paying for 1/3 of all the repairs to the pump house over these last couple of years. So he was paying for water on an annual basis, a small placeholder, but any repairs. So you see the $300,000 number that we used. In the initial planning, we assumed that he was going to be on board with this and that his bill would be $100,000. Because of that, he's changed his mind and is going to put in a pond.
So how's he gonna fill the pond?
He's going to put some wells on his property. There's just not enough pressure for him to water his golf course. And if I'm not saying that right, let me know, but that's kind of the plan is Tri-City is going to be on their own from this point forward. What that does for us, right now we have, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, we have 375 horsepower motor, 350 horse. What do we have now?
Right now we have, or the original plan had 350 horse motors and 120 horse jockey motor that we just needed to water a couple creeks at a time. All three of those 50 horses have failed. If we were gonna keep our relationship with Tri-City, we would need to replace it with 350s. We're gonna go down to 275 horse motors. And so our capacity before was 1,800 gallons per minute at 115 PSI. We'll be down to 1,500 gallons per minute at 115 PSI. Our system really can only handle 1,200 gallons per minute. So we'll be more than covered, but as pumps age, they lose a little efficiency. So we'll be in great shape. Our new setup.
So literally everything in our irrigation system will be new.
So knowing this was coming with Todd, we changed the sizing and the cost actually changed.
We had thought we could phase the pump house in and put the control panel in separately than the motors and the pumps. What we've come to find out is the technology running the pumps needs the technology in the control panel because they talk to each other. We had a situation this year where the intake pipe came out of the water, came out of the river, and the pumps were running, and that's what caused a lot of the problems we're having right now. So the new technology will automatically turn all the pumps off if there's a problem. So to make sure we keep warranty on our pumps and motors, we have to do it all at one time. So it's a big nut to bite off, but we have to do it, and there's no other way around it based on all the information.
And I do have a couple online.
Okay, we got an online question then?
Scott Blanky just was asking if have the designers been able to offer any plans to improve the acoustics in the bar area? So that's been part of the process of the design of figuring that out. One thing we didn't touch on in the bar is the ceilings are gonna get raised up. So a lot of the area of the drywall part of the ceilings, we're able to take that back much closer to the windows and eliminate a lot of that. So that room will feel considerably bigger within that. It doesn't show real well on the rendering, but you will see if you look on the rendering. If you go back one more, John, is it that the floor plan? Yeah, there to the left, that's like, 2 feet off of the window versus right now it's about 4 feet.
Yeah,
So
all
that'll
this.
go back. All the rest of that ceiling that goes into the main dining room, we'll be able to take that out, create a much larger feeling space. So, Scott, to answer your question, obviously that'll be a priority to make sure that we do have some acoustic value to the renovation within that. Also, more of a comment here, Chuck Sutton just encourage addition of quality TVs to create a sports pub feel to the new bar area to attract people to Bullseye to view sporting events in addition to the traditional golfer and event participation. We've talked about that in a couple different ways. Yeah, we anticipate there will be much more TV coverage than we have. I don't think our initial anticipation is going overboard with TV screens. I don't think you'll expect to see 6, 8, 10 TVs in that area. But I'm saying we probably got 80 inches of TV in there now. I could see that tripling maybe, but
But
we
in
will
the,
have- we will
in the
have-
design process, we don't want to be a sports bar. That wasn't the intent of
Correct.
this
We wanna-
remodel to be a sports bar. We like to be something different, something unique in this town.
Yep.
A sports bar, there's plenty of places you can go to, but we want to give it an upscale vibe, if you will, that's all,
Correct.
we're still working on
The
that.
anticipation.
Yeah.
As where we stand now is at least 3 larger screens in the bar versus 1 large screen and 1 very small screen that we have right now. I believe I have another one here, John, that came in. Oh, that was just Scott Blanky saying thanks for the info.
Any questions about anything you've seen tonight? Like I said, all this stuff will be out there. We're in the bar. There's big mock-ups that'll be available to take a look at of all of the bar renderings that have been completed. Our goal is to keep everybody informed as to where we're going on this project. But it's something that we think, if you remember that slide that Mark showed, we're anticipating a 15% plus return on our investment. I mean, we think that those numbers that you looked at are fairly conservative. That people are gonna stay for a drink. People are gonna wanna come out to that space. And the goal for us as a business is to utilize that improvement to drive revenues on this side of the building. We need the one area that we can improve on is revenue from our bar and restaurant. So as you know, this business, when you really think about it, this business is multiple businesses. We have a retail shop, that pro shop selling clothes and that kind of stuff. We have a bar and restaurant business. We have a banquet business, which is totally separate and changes the dynamic at times. And then we have a golf business. So we think we can improve the revenue. We've already improved the revenue on the golf side with the practice range. And now we need to work on the bar and restaurant and make it as good as it can be. Obviously, the patios out front have been very successful. My belief is we need to work on this part of the building. We're gonna rebrand the restaurant and bar. That's in discussion phase right now. I've been working with Fay Printing. They were the ones that helped us with the logo and stuff. We're gonna start having meetings on rebranding so that we can do some advertising and get the general public out here for meals and for cocktails. Any member of the board want to add anything? Anything that we haven't covered tonight? Anything that you think is important that we?
John, I
Jerry?
got a comment. I would just like to thank you, Mike, JT, and the whole board, and all the people that have worked together in the last 4 years that turned Bullseye around. I mean, it's been incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a heck of an experience. You know, and now we need to obviously be responsive to all of our members. And we also need to grow the business. I mean, this is capitalism 101, so.
You guys have put in all the time and all the effort and all the work that, you know, to all of you.
Yep, and I got a great board. I mean, we work well together. We don't always agree on everything, but we work well together, so. And I can turn things over to Mike for 3 months when I'm gone, so it's a beautiful thing. All right, if there's no other questions, we'll adjourn the meeting and go into the bar and you can take a look at these renderings. There's a bunch of different views. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, John.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I think.
Already. Shut down the Zoomer. Or did JT do that?